Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to talk about Chapter 9, the Night chapter of Book of Many Things, and the incredible, life-changing lesson contained within this chapter for every Dungeons and Dragons participant, for every Dungeon Master and every Dragon Master. All right, so what is there? It's the knight. The knight recontextualized as an ally. So, what is Dungeons and Dragons doing? Dungeons and Dragons today is going back and picking up every single relic it owns, right? That deserves to be picked up, right? So, Spelljammer picked up, was old, now new, completely recontextualized, completely modernized. All the old cool stuff is there. All the old not needed, useless stuff has been paired off, right? It's been shined up, completely restored. 305 dropped in the heart. Vroom, vroom, right? And just to be clear, that's what we're seeing now, right? Let's go back. We're going into the treasure vault. Like Dungeons and Dragons, the Dungeons and Dragons design team is going back into the treasure vault and saying, we're taking everything, right? That old crusty sword over there, yeah, I see some silver, I see some gems. Oh, but I see a little bit of rust on it. We're gonna need to, we're gonna need to get that ready to be put onto the battlefield again. The virtual battlefield. And that's what we're doing. But what gets left behind, right? When you go into the treasure vault, Oriental Adventures is there. It's getting left behind, right? It was not done with the appropriate. The first time it was done by Dungeons and Dragons designers, it was not done with the appropriate level of respect. It did not have the right language. It's not ready for primetime, baby, right? And it may never leave the treasure vault. It may always stay out of the public eye, no utility, right? But the Book of Many Things is going back, and they brought out of the treasure vault this timeless, incredibly valuable relic, right? That is now going to be an on the virtual battlefield artifact in use. And it is in use. Book of Many Things is out, right? It's doing its thing. So old D&D, it was like, oh, hey, knights used to be a thing. Whatever. It's a knight. You can play one. Whatever. Cut a goblin in half. Whatever. Right? What does D&D now do? It's like, hey, I see you. You Dragon Master. You Dungeons and Dragons player. You don't know what you're doing now. Whatever. You're here to cut some goblins in half. That's fine. You could do that for 6 months. We'll give you up to 6 years. After that, you got to figure out what this really is, right? And Mackenzie DeArmas knows exactly what this really is, right? And so Mackenzie DeArmas, one of the key writers on Book of Many Things, the project lead was Jason Tondro. Really fascinating where she's heading with this, right? She's like, what is a knight in 2024? A knight is an ally. And you're like, wait a second. What do you mean a knight is an ally? I'm an ally, right? And so, like, different people, like, what kind of ally would you be? You might be an LGBTQ ally, right? You might be hetero and you're allying for LGBTQ. Or you saw the movie Mean Girls and you realize that there are now LGBTQ ally. There are now LGBTQ who are going, oh, we're not the only people with problems. We need to start out. Now there are now LGBTQ members who are hetero allies who are like, oh, lots of hetero people have problems just like us. In fact, maybe worse. They're not an empowered group like us now, right? Like, maybe we need to ally for heteros too, right? Like, and so you could be an ally helping someone whose preference is different than yours, right? You wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm an ally. I put on my shirt. I changed my Facebook tag, right? And Mackenzie Sarmis is like, no, you are a knight. You are a virtual knight, right? But you are a knight. Pick up your virtual sword, pick up your virtual shield, put on your virtual plate. Let's get to work. You are a knight, right? And chapter 9 of Knight is very intentional in its language, right? There is it redefines knights as vengeful knights, It's vengeful allies, seeker allies, studious allies, right? And I think there's one more in there. Grateful, vengeful, seeker, and studious. Yeah, grateful, vengeful, seeker, and studious. Allies. But it's like but knight is just an old word for ally, right? But ally is not as powerful as knight. And if we start thinking ourselves as knights, it helps. It helps tremendously, right? What is a samurai but a knight in Japan, right? They had a code. And it calls, and Mackenzie de Armas is like, I read Gary Gygax's stuff. I know his legacy. He called people to improve, transform, and secure, right? And that's what she's saying. She's like, improve, get a code of honor, transform, become really good at virtual fighting. Not literal fighting. We don't need to do that anymore, right? Only repugnant monster humans like Vladimir Putin do that now, right? You know, we virtually fight. We fight on the virtual battlefield, right? For the things that we care about, right? If we're an LGBTQ and we want to help, you know, heteros who are confused and lost, we're going to help them. If we're heteros who think there are, you know, some LGBTQ people that still need help, we're going to ally for them, right? We're going to go in both directions, right? Knights, virtual knights, helping the other side, right? Helping the people who are downtrodden, helping the people who are under attack, right? And it's a powerful, incredibly powerful recontextualization of something old to new. And this is why you must stay on D&D now, and why D&D old does not matter, right? It is not worth your time, okay? This is the new. This is what's valuable, right? What Mackenzie de Armas is writing today is far more valuable than anything Gary Gygax wrote between, you know, 1987 to 2008. That's just the way it is. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in a comment and send your traffic, please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.